What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige with the Page, and today we're going to be doing my October wrap up. Hello my darlings, welcome to this video. Today I want to talk through the things that I have read in October. We'll talk through the stats and then dive into the books themselves. I apologize if I look or sound or act slightly frazzled. It has been a day of watching people drink the stupid juice. So we're just gonna keep going and channel that chaotic energy into this video. So my apologies, I hope you enjoy the ride. For my stats, in the month of October I read 13 books, which equated to 5,232 pages, which is about 169 pages per day and roughly 402 pages per book. I acquired 8 new books. My average rating was a 4.19. I listened to 64 hours of audiobook. I read 1 dystopian, 9 fantasy, 1 horror, 1 magical realism, and 1 romance. I listened to 5 books purely by audiobook, 1 that I read completely physically, and 7 that I had the audio-physical combination. I read 4 YA titles, 1 new adult, and 8 adult titles. 10 of these authors I had read from before, with 3 of them being new to me. I had 2 3.5 stars, 5 4 stars, 5 4.5 stars, and 1 5 star. I read 4 standalones. I started 1 series, I continued in 4, and got 2 caught up and finished 2. I had 1 in the hundreds page range, 2 in the 200s page range, 3 in the 300s page range, 5 in the 400s, 1 in the 500s, and 1 in the 600s. I read 2 2025 acquisitions, 4 backlist titles, and 7 from my library. So those were the stats. Let's dive into the books. For my order that I talk about these is from my lowest rated to my highest rated for the month, and I use the CAWPILE systems. I'll leave the raw data down below for what each of these books scored, so then you can see on how I got to the star rating that I did, rather than actually saying like just a handful of numbers that make no sense. I find that if I see them visually and understand where they come from, then it makes more sense. So I'll give you my 5-star rating scale, but in the description box will be the CAWPILE breakdown as to how I got this order. For my 3.5 stars, which are still great books, like they're good books, I describe them as a good book for me, but just not the target audience. So the first one that's a 3.5 is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I like this series enough. I'm curious to keep going with it, but I just found that I dragged my feet with this. I technically started this in July and just felt no desire to pick it up. Once I got into it, I had fun with it, and the dynamics in it are definitely giving me book series that I've really enjoyed recently, so I'm keen to keep going with it. I'm not disliking it. It's just sometimes I feel like the characters' choices, I'm like, oh, we are really feeling quite YA, and that's just not something that I fully want with my reads nowadays. Sometimes it completely works, and for this, it's a good book. I would highly recommend this to the target demographic. I'm just not that anymore. Whilst I'm enjoying getting to see the characters and like the whole magic system, it is something that really fascinates me. The actions of the characters, I'm like, haha, okay. I still enjoy the series enough to keep going with it, but it definitely has enough elements to it that I'm like, oh yes, I need a bit more for my enjoyment to be something that I want to be screaming about from the rooftops. And maybe the rest of the series will finally get to that, especially if it goes in the way that it has done for another series, but it's just, at the moment, that's how I'm feeling towards it. Next up, I have Restless Slumber by KJ Sutton. Again, 3.5. This was such an interesting reading experience because I barely remember anything from Fortuna Swarm. Like, there were characters and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I should have known who that person was, but it had been a very long time since I read the first book. And so I had this disconnect with the characters, but at the same time, I was curious to see where we're going. I'm really curious to see where we go from here, considering how this narrative went. It did a thing. It did a thing, and I'm proud of it for doing that thing. I enjoyed it for doing that thing. But again, I just had this disconnect, and I pick it up and didn't feel like reading it. I didn't want to DNF it, but I just wasn't inclined to read it. And these were 2 books that had been on my TBR plans for the longest this year. I think I had scheduled to read these in like May or sometime, and I just kept dragging my feet with it. And I think that reluctance was something that contributed to my overall enjoyment. I still like I said, I enjoyed these series. I'm keen to keep going with them, but I just had that disconnect for this one. So I'll be curious to see where we go for the next, and considering how chunky that they get, I will be curious to see how everything shapes up and what all of that is. Obviously, if my ratings don't continue to stay the same or get higher, I might end up DNFing the series, but I feel like I could love it. I just need to get reacquainted with the characters that we're following, and I feel like after the second book I'm feeling more in tune with a lot of them now. Next up I have Her Soul for a Crown by Alicia Ramira, and this is my first 4 stars. I had so much fun with this. I was looking for a mythology based book that wasn't in the Greek or Roman pantheon, and picked this up because it's based off Sri Lankan mythology. It was so fun. I had a good time reading this. I really enjoyed seeing a new mythology element to it, and done in a way that I hadn't seen before. There was some elements to it that really took me out of the story because it was hilarious, but I'm also like, why do we have a talking headrest that is trying to convince how to pleasure each other? Like, what the actual fuck? I loved it, but I did definitely pull myself out of the story every so often when that was mentioned. I enjoyed getting to see our characters. I thought they were really strong, and overall it was a really good time. I think if someone is wanting to find a different mythology that's not in the common realm, this would be a great one to pick up, and I definitely see that the romanticy girlies might get into this and have a good time with it because it's something different, it's something new, and that was really refreshing. I'm sure there is other fantasy romance that is Sri Lankan mythology out there. This was just the first one that I stumbled across, and yeah, it's a debut. It's 2025 release, so I'm like, yeah, cool, let's give this a go, and it was so fun. So very happy with that. I think there were a couple of little elements that I was like, oh, this could have been tightened up a little bit more here or there, but nothing major. So I just, yeah, went in for a good time and definitely came out with that. So very, very happy to have picked this one up. Then I have The Memory Police by Yoko Agawa. Gave this a 4 stars as well. This was really fascinating, but also very trippy at the end. My brain was like, what the fuck is actually happening right now? Ash has read this and he was very curious to hear my thoughts on it throughout, and we were talking and talking. I didn't mention something that he had noticed, and then when I went to write my reviews, there was a piece of information that I was missing to be able to do so, and I realized a key factor of this book and raised it with Ash, and he's like, I've been waiting. You are the first person that I've spoken to about this book that has also picked up on this fact, and that really made me think about this book. I do think that it could be a 4.5 because the way that it's going to sit with me and I'm going to think on it. It was just the ending threw me so much with how just abstract it was. I'm like, what the actual fuck? But this extra component of it, I'm like, oh my god, this has made this just so much more fascinating and so intricate, and the way that it all works together now that I understand it on a slightly deeper level, amazing. I'm so happy that like I actually did this, and if I wasn't doing my book reviews this year, I would not have picked this up. Not in the slightest. Like, there is no way. Because for me, when I'm listening to the audiobook, I just thought I'd missed it. I hadn't. Anyway, if anyone has read this and would like to talk about it, please feel free to like DM me. I don't want to talk about it in the comments just in case, because of spoilers. I would love for people to be able to find that on their own. But if you want to reach out on Discord or anywhere, feel free to hit me up, because I think it is such an interesting thing to have lost. I saw it as one way, Ash saw it as another, but like, it's open to interpretation. You can interpret it as you will. But also, I just love this story. There's an old, like, the old man in it. I call my grandpa the old man, and I just, no! It hit me in the feels. It's so interesting seeing these different things that were just disappearing and how people sort of navigated each disappearance and how that actually worked. But the people that could remember it, it's like, oh. So I think, what did Ash say? This is 1984, but the Japanese version of it, and I definitely agree. I think this could be studied alongside it and be very interesting takes on a dystopian society. So fascinating, so interesting. We have a young novelist who is writing her story as they have disappearances from the world. They know that these things have disappeared and then gradually just forget that it ever existed, but there are some people who still remember. So it's just So fascinating, so interesting. Very good for a topic piece, and I can understand why like book clubs would have a field day diving into this. I'd already done my CAWPILE rating when I discovered this, so I was happy sticking with the 4 stars, but it definitely could have bumped it up a couple of notches based off that discussion with Ash. But my reading experience, 4 stars. And that's what I love about like your rating scale. It is so subjective, and it could take one conversation and completely shift your opinion on a book. So love it. Next up, another 4 stars was A Mouthful of Dust by Nebo. I have really enjoyed the Singing Hills cycle, but I feel like I've lost something. I used to adore every installment, 5 stars. It could just be that I was less of a picky reader, and because it was so beautiful, I was like, yeah, stunning, 5 stars. Whereas now that I'm actually paying attention to different elements, I'm like, maybe not. We're looking at what happens in a famine and what people do to survive that. It is some next level, and it was still beautifully written. It's amazing, it's atmospheric, it's absolutely just eerie in so many elements. And I think that's where the Singing Hill cycle has had a slight tonal shift for me for like the last 2, definitely. So I'm just like, I feel like I've lost, why are we in this like creepy vibe sort of thing? I know they all had an element to it, but now we're really like ramping up that creepy vibe, and I'm just like a little bit confused, but still very, very intrigued for where we're gonna go from here. Then I very much surprised myself because I was like, why is this so low on the list? But Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. This was an arc that I read, and holy shit, I had fun with it. But also, I was really uncomfortable the entire time. Oh, that's why. Yes. So I really struggled to connect with our protagonist. I appreciate her. I understand the amount of trauma that she's gone through. I get it. I understand. But also, like, the initial behavior, I'm like, oh, yo, honey, Jesus Christ, why have your parents not put you in therapy? Wow, this is really becoming a narrative that I've found out this year. It's hard for me to read books and just be like, why aren't you bitches in therapy? Anyway, we have a abandoned house, and at the beginning of the story, the girl's brother goes into the house with his 2 friends. 2 of them make it out, one without an arm, and the brother does not come back. So it's this really vibe-filled, atmospheric read of this abandoned house that is just sucking the life out of the people around it. And there were some really interesting conversations on DV, but also the extent that your environment can really impact on your emotional well-being and how you manage to face each day. So that was really fascinating. The protagonist was unsufferable for a large majority of this book, and also I don't understand the name of the kid in the second half. I'm like, why is that their nickname? It really threw me out for a second. But I did enjoy getting to see the found family aspects of this and just how monstrous the house could be, the story that it's telling, and how our protagonist becomes the keeper of the stories for this house, and how she goes and investigates into why this house is the way that it is. It was really, really fascinating in that regard, and I was really unnerved for a lot of it. I did enjoy this. The ending was difficult because you're like, what? But I also acknowledge that going into paranormal reads that I do just have to hold on for dear life and see how it all comes together. But yes, I definitely enjoyed this book immensely. Next up, I have Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. I am impressed that this is at a 4 stars because I have learnt this year that unless it's smart, I'm not a pirate person. So I definitely struggled a little bit with this just because of the setting, but I adore these characters so much. I basically approach this as the fact that I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I just pray that they know what they're doing. I'm not here to solve it. I'm not here to be in on the heist. I am not got enough cells for that. They are way smarter than I am. I'm just here to watch it all unfold. And so acting as a observer rather than being like, yeah, I want to be part of the action. Let me figure it all out together. I'm like, no. Scott doesn't do that. Scott just is like, bitch, take a seat and enjoy the ride. And that I did. We are following Locke and John as they continue to have for more shenanigans. I adore their dynamic. My heart broke for one of them in particular this time, and I am very curious as to where the next one's going to go, considering where we left this off. Obviously can't say too many things because spoilers, second book in a series, but I had a lot of fun with it. I know that not everyone vibes with the narration style of the Gentleman Bastard series, but honestly I had so much fun with it, and considering I don't like pirates, I'm really impressed that I enjoyed this as much as we did. We don't start off straight on pirates. We do have like a lot of setup before we get to that point, which I think helped. There's a lot of different shenanigans, a lot of antics that they do, and a lot of hilarious characters, which I absolutely adore. I also really enjoy getting to see them pit different stakeholders against one another and just try and outwit them whilst not being outwitted themselves. It's always a fun time, and I really enjoy this series. Next up, one of my biggest surprises is Beasts of Prey by Ayana Gray. I gave this a 4.5 stars, and I'm still not sure how we managed to get there, but we did, because when I was reading it, I was really captivated. I didn't want to put it down. I sort of flew through it, and it was just really engaging. I didn't have to think too much, which was nice. This was the kind of YA that I was vibing with, because the characters, there was relationships of sorts, but we were seeing each individual character, their flaws and their own person, more so than anything else. So I really enjoyed that. I would have loved to see more of like the zoo, but we get to see so much of the world. It's so interesting as well because it is an African inspired setting, and it was just so cool seeing the different elements that Ayana Gray brought in. I'll be really curious to see where we go in the second and third one, but I understand that I've got a lot to learn, and it was just, yeah, a really good time. I really enjoyed the relationship dynamic that does occur, and it was just really interesting getting to see. I think what kept me engaged so much was there was always something new to be discovered, and each new reveal I was like, oh damn, okay. Had a lot of fun with it, really enjoyed it, very surprised but not mad at that fact at all. Next up we have Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. Again, 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this duology. I'm so happy that I got to read it and read it relatively close to one another. I really enjoyed getting to see another character dynamic relationship revealed in this one, and it be more of the center focus. I just think that was a good shift to do, because we got to see some other elements that we hadn't been presented with in the first one, and the consequences of that. We still had Elspeth and Raven and the Nightmare doing their things, having shenanigans, getting into a world of hurt. But there was the other element of it just made it a little bit of a breath of fresh air, and then we got to go back to the broodies and then come back. It was just really well done. I felt like it was excellently placed in the sense that it was always something new to learn, but we also got to explore the magic system in a really cool way, and where we shifted was really awesome to see. So I have really enjoyed getting to see the tarot card magic that was presented initially, and we got to go even further into that, and our little characters, my little soul for them. I really loved seeing Elspeth and the Nightmares dynamic and how that played together this time, because we get to see so much more to them than what we originally thought, and I just really enjoyed getting to sink my teeth into that and had a really good time with it. Next up was another 4.5, and that was Crazy Stupid Bromance by Lyssa Kay Adams. I am loving this series so fucking much. It is so fun. The only reason this was a 4.5 and not a 5 star is because I apparently don't like the friends to lovers trope. I need angst, because just my personality flaw is requiring that. So this is a friends to lovers romance between Alexis and Noah. Noah is part of a friend group who have a romance book club, and he's like, no way, I'm not taking advice from romance books, I can handle it myself. We love the book club. I am absolutely so excited to read the next one, because that is based off one of my favorite characters, and I just loved getting to see them here. It is a great time. We are following the consequences of the end of the last book as well for Alexis and what she is trying to do with that. And it has been so interesting just getting to see her strength of character come through. I really loved Noah and his figuring out himself and being able to then show up in the best way possible. There was the miscommunication trope, but they do talk about that and pay homage to the fact that it is. And then they have grand reveal, the chase scene, and it's a fun time, and I've really enjoyed this. And also the cat in this is absolutely demonic, and it's very fitting for how I feel towards cats, so it was a good time all around. Then I have A Steeping of Blood by Husfer Faisal, and this is the second in the Blood and Tea duology. I have loved this series. So like I say, pirates and vampires this year have not been my friends. This duology, however, disproves the vampire side of it. I think because they're not in the horrific side of things, this is why I like them. It's done in a way that I could get behind. It's just so interesting seeing our characters follow on. I really can't say anything about this because of where the first book ends, and I do not want to give spoilers. I think if you go into this series as blind as possible, it's just so much fun getting to see the reveals. There are some serious hardships throughout this, and they don't shy away from characters facing things that will break them on a spiritual level. And then the way that the reveals happen towards the end, I was just on the edge of my seat. I couldn't get into the story enough. I had to keep devouring it, ironically, because it's a vampire book, and I just had so much fun with these characters. It is so nice seeing their little relationships. I was sad about one particular fictitious relationship in this, but that's the way some things go. My heart broke at the end, and yeah, I just, whoo! So many feelings in a very short time, but I really adore this series for it. And then my final book, because it was my only 5-star read, was Hemlock Silver by T. Kingfisher, because this was a fucking ride. I had so much fun with it. I just went in for a good time, and it exceeded my expectations. I absolutely just fucking thought that Anya was a nutter. She's poisoning herself to make sure that she's not going to poison other people, and how to find the cures and shit. It was just so fucking hilarious, but also not. And there were elements of this where we're trying to find a cure for the princess, and the way that that's explored, how we end up in there, was fascinating. The narcissistic cat. What was with cats is things. There were cats in Loch Lamora. Anyway, I had a cat heavy month, and then the guard just... T. Kingfisher knows how to write my kind of people. These were my kind of people through and through. I adore books that I can just sink in and love the characters with every fibre of my being. This was no exception. I had so much fun. It is a Snow White retelling, but we are not following Snow. She is a side character in this, and we are working with the healer. It was so fun, and I did not see where this was going at all. It makes perfect sense. There is a theme throughout that I was just like, yeah, I'm a fucking idiot for not picking that up, but that's fine. It was just a romp of a read, so I had a fabulous time. T. Kingfisher can do no wrong. I really just need to pick up everything that they write, because it's fucking glorious. It is that combination of I'm uncomfortable but I'm pissing myself laughing simultaneously, but my heart's breaking for these characters, but also what the actual fuck, but this is fantastic. That is my brain every time I pick up a T. Kingfisher, and I ain't even mad at it. Fucking love it. And also this cover is just stunning. This is a piece of art. Love it. These are the physical books that I have for what I read in the month of October. I had a really good reading month. Like, I feel like even though I didn't have many 5-star reads, there were a lot of solid good reads, and I finally caught up with so many books that I had been meaning to get to. Beasts of Prey was one of those that have been on my TBR the longest. Bloodmarked, Restless Slumber. So I finally ticked off some of those. And those had been floating around for quite a while, and I really needed to have got to them, and I'm glad that I did, because one, I found that I'm so excited to continue on with the rest of the series. The other two, I'm like, okay, I gotta just keep going, keep myself motivated, and I'm sure that these series will become gold. I had a really interesting time. There was a lot of very eclectic, like, I know I read a lot of fantasies, but I also threw in a dystopian, a horror, a romance, and a magical realism. There was a lot happening. But I had, like I said, a really good time. So feel free to let me know any thoughts that you have on these books. Again, no spoilers please in the comments, just for other people. But if you want to message me to talk about them, please feel free. I would love to be able to chat with you about them. So feel free to hit me up on any of my socials. And yeah, anything else you want to let me know. What did you read in the month of October that you ended up loving? I would love to hear all of those down in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. I'll hopefully see you in my next video or over on my Patreon. Bye!